Captain Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew. We have our usual suspects of AD or Alpha Dean. We have Spigs18 or Anthony. And Dean, I think you might know a little bit about what we're talking about today. So why don't you lay it down?
Well, sort of, it's kind of cool, man. I kind of get to be the topic of discussion, or at least something I created is a topic of discussion. So, welcome to this first Cypher Unlimited infomercial. Anthony, go ahead, set the stage for us.
All right, so tonight we're going to rip apart, discuss and review, discuss and sort of, go over our very own native son, Alpha Dean's latest project on Drive-Thru RPG on the Cypher Creator Program. If you haven't picked it up, you should because it's awesome. We're going to talk about it right now. It's Mal Vandal's Mythic Vade Mecum, and we'll let Dean explain that. But he's basically breaking down the magical spell system, a new form of casting in the Cypher system. There's some old stuff, there's some new stuff. We're gonna pick his brain. We're gonna see how it fits into the Cypher system. We're gonna break down the supplement and its component parts. And we'll let Dean introduce what each part is because there's some really cool and interesting stuff in there. And hopefully we'll break it down so you guys want to purchase it and buy it because I did personally and it's awesome.
Yeah, definitely awesome, but and a very interesting title at that. I do like that you add mixtape to all your stuff, but at first glance, reading that title, we gotta ask, who is Mal Vandal? Why do we care about his Mythic Vade Mecum or whatever it is?
Well, the whole idea was I wrote an intro about this particular person, in his Cypher system. We're talking about Cypher fantasy. So the thought process was to bring a character to life that could be used as an NPC or a legend. And that's what he is. He's a legendary arcanist, spellcaster. He's traveled dimension upon dimension and broken down magic into its most simple component parts only to understand it. And, this is his Vade Mecum.
Speaking of Vade Mecum, I'm not totally up to date on my current Latin phrases. So could you explain to our audiences and, people like me who's not familiar with the Latin so much, what exactly does Vade Mecum stand for?
Well, a Vade Mecum is a handbook or a guide that is kept constantly at hand for consultation. If you were to use it in a sentence from back in that time, it would be, his book is an excellent Vade Mecum for writers. This is a Vade Mecum for spellcasters. And, I came up with that title because that's how I wanted to look at it. Everybody's been clamoring for a spell casting, spell system, if you will, in Cypher System. So why not put together something that would fill that void?
Exactly. I know you just touched on the answer to this question a little bit, but why were there any other reasons for creating a magic supplement for Cypher to begin with other than people talking about it? Was there like a natural draw for you? Like, why even go about this?
Well, you know what? For me, it wasn't necessarily that I needed to complete it or create it, but it was more the fact that I knew a lot of people were struggling or always struggle with magic in Cypher because so many people come from D&D and other systems that have these traditional lists of spells and this idea of how spell casting is supposed to work. So it just was a natural evolution, if you will. I've played D&D for I started D&D 45 years ago, and to be able to look at Cypher System, I've always been able to look at it and see how the magic can work easily. But this was just, the evolution of everybody talking and saying, hey, we need this. And so I put something together, and I've been play testing it for the last couple of months and it's worked out great. And that's what's going on.
I viewed it as you saw a need and you tried the best you could to fulfill it because I definitely think Cypher System can use more forms of spell casting. And I think you've you know, as well as our audience to see when we break down a little bit of the document that you have some pretty original and interesting concepts here that I think a lot of people are going to enjoy.
Sweet. I'm glad you guys are, digging it. So
Without like going like fully thorough into like, you know, because ultimately we would like people to purchase this and you know, to get the full gist. But let's kind of break down like the table of contents, if you will, of the document. So the first thing that I'm definitely going to ask is, you incorporated an additional pool, the primordial pool. Like, could you talk a little bit about that? Like, what exactly is that?
well, there's so many different aspects when you look at Magic, and some of the cooler things that happen in Magic happened back in third edition 3.5, and it was something that Monty Cook was kind of the pioneer on, and that was meta magic. So I wanted to allow a way to have, some sort of meta magic effects in the game. And so I created a fourth pool for it because I didn't think it would be fair to the players to have to spend on their spells themselves, from, the various pools, and then have to, again, spend again to get more meta magic feats because you're already spending effort and, the cost of an actual spell in general from your pools. So the primordial pool just was a natural idea.
So the first question I'm gonna ask that I think most people in the audience and our viewers on YouTube are gonna want to know is, what's the difference between the primordial pool or the way Magic is structured in Cypher currently, where a player draws from the intellect pool to cast an ability like a spell? What's the difference between the two?
Oh, excuse
The
me.
primordial pool itself, points from that pool are literally used only to affect magic. Okay, so it will expand a spell. It can give you the ability to, like I said, meta magic. So you want to increase the range, you want to increase the damage, you want to change the parameters, you want to change a touch spell to a range spell, things like that. You want to combine, more than one spell into a single attack, things like that. You know,
So it doesn't so someone still pulls from the intellect pool to cast the spell?
absolutely. You still will pay points from your intellect pool or whatever your casting pool, because I did this on purpose as well. That's just a overview that depending on how you want to structure your game, a caster may not necessarily always be pulling from their intellect pool to cast spells. So, just an example, if you were, say you're playing a character and you want to make a blood mages will pull from their might pool, you know, things like that, to give you flexibility. So the point costs are static, but what pool they come from can truly be defined by you and your players and the game master.
I really like that concept and idea that you can use these I forget what word to use to describe magical feats, like to expand on your current abilities, like to
Right.
combine them or change their range or whatever have you. I feel like players or people would have a lot of fun doing that. I know it sounds like a lot of fun to me anyway.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point, is trying to keep in line with Cypher System, which, you know, allows you to do just that, be flexible and move things around.
I mean, not only did you expand with additional pool, you kind of created a ranking or tier system for Magic users. You know, it's a magical ranking. Could you talk a little bit about that so people get an idea of what the concept is behind that?
Well, just like with anything, when you start out as in any game, you go from novice to initiate to master, and it's the same concept. You know, um, initiates, you know, can cast any spell they want, but it's more difficult to expand on those spells. It's more difficult to, uh, you know, manipulate the magic, if you will. Then you become an initiate, so you're intermediate. You're versed, but you're not a master. And then upon mastery, of course, that's when, the really uh, scary magic comes out. That's when you can That's when you start basically affecting um, the fundamental forces of the universe, reality itself. Yeah.
I mean, I really like that concept of the way it's well thought out, the way it's gonna make campaigns a lot more interesting, especially when you have a party of four diverse characters all casting spells from different backgrounds. You could have the traditional magic user, you could have the battle mage, you could have the bard, and they all capable in the supplement. And not only are you going to be able to tier up, as you could say, as a spellcaster, you're going to see the difference. And when you purchase the document, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But you're going to see the difference of, going from tier 2 to tier 3. There's a distinct advantage from tiering up, which I really enjoyed.
So I'm smiling here because something just sparked. This whole thing just sparked an idea. Again, I'll be honest with everyone here. I haven't actually read this document. I know Dean's a very capable writer. I know there's excellent stuff in here, but I'm just wondering: is there an idea or mechanic in here about two different PCs combining their spells together in some fashion? Because I was thinking something like Chrono Trigger in a fantasy setting where there's double tech, triple techs. They can combine their abilities to do something together. I don't know if that's in the thing, but that's definitely something I would definitely try to incorporate myself personally.
Well, there's nothing in there that speaks directly to that, but that's what the primordial pool is all about. That's what you're spending those points for is all about. The whole point of creating this particular document was all about showing the flexibility, the modularity, and the fact that you're only limited by your imagination. I didn't even really think about it, but I can see how it can be done with the way the rules are written. I can see exactly how it can be done. And all you got to do is use the primordial pool, make the argument, tell your GM what you guys are going to do. Boom, there you go.
It's definitely something I really want to try now. It sounds like super fun. And a stream buddy of mine, named Samurai Hamster, he's playing his first playthrough of Chrono Trigger, so I catch it when I can. And I've been thinking about Chrono Trigger a lot lately, and I can see it with this especially with now I have this sort of reference guide or whatever to having that sort of magic interaction where you can combine spells between two characters or something. And I feel like that would add excellently to that sort of game, especially again specifically for Chrono Trigger, because
I think I would think that it's easily adaptable with the supplement, because both players would just pull
exactly
points from the primordial pool in order to accomplish a combination of spells.
And you as the GM, I put a basic chart in there of cost, primordial cost, when you're adding, primordial points for things for it to do. But then you as the GM can basically extrapolate from there and go, hey, look, I can plug this in, I can plug that in, or you can do this. It's not hard at all.
Definitely sounds super fun.
When you decide to run it, let me play. I want to try it out myself now.
I mean, let's talk about some of the where I feel this document really shines. And the first thing is, not only do you have the tiering up for spellcasters, you have this pretty extensive list of new and original spells, but you also have the moments which I think are the most enjoyable in RPGs is when people roll badly and fuck up. So you have the Backlash Mechanic. Can you talk a little bit about that and what it means to backlash on the spell?
Well, Backlash, again, is just an extension of a GMI. It's just to help the GM, have a little fun. And it also ties right into what I was saying about being a novice caster, an initiate caster, and a master caster. Backlash literally is when your magic goes awry, when you lose concentration, or somebody throws a counter spell, counter magic energy at you, whatever. And this whole concept is basically just that. It's not always necessarily bad, but you may not get the desired effect that you're looking for.
You also have a recommended chart list on this as well, right?
I have a chart. I have a randomized chart for that. And just so everybody knows, I plan on actually doing a set of cards as well. So you'll be able to order the PDF or order the cards, and then you would just have random cards a deck, because it's like 25 or 30 random effects, that I do have already set up as well. So yeah, and you can also use that chart too for wild magic or chaos magic. I incorporate that concept in there. So Backlash is not just necessarily that. If you're playing in a place that has unpredictable magical eddies, or the ley lines in the world, like you don't know you're standing on a ley line. So it might give you a surge of magic. And so it could actually do what you want it to do, but it'll do something else as well. So you can do that kind of stuff. This is the kind of stuff I want you to think about when you're using a supplement.
I mean, and I also envision it as you could do more traditional, D&D-esque fantasy. You have the, sorcerers, storm, what's that, wild magic surge.
Mm-hmm.
It's now you could easily replicate it in Cypher System with, the same exact chart.
Yeah.
Which is just awesome. I'm actually quite looking forward to trying Magic out with this supplement. And yeah, I'm gonna actually try to get my home game back together, which is a fantasy game, and hopefully introduce our mage to some of this stuff and see how it works out.
Awesome.
I actually have I still have my series of one-shots that I want to roll out for God's Forsaken. And I'm definitely going to use some of the concepts from this in my first God-Forsaken game. And actually, after reading this supplement, I changed some concepts of the game itself to incorporate some of the spells that were in this book. So speaking of spells, this is a pretty good list of spells. It's very original. It's very, I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised because some of these spells are familiar, and some of these spells come out of left field. So, could you just give us a general about how many additional spells and abilities that you add in this document?
There's
what's everybody's personal favorites?
There's 65, 70 spells. I actually didn't keep a direct count, but I know it's 65 to 70 spells. And the thought process with that was to be able to, throw in some of the traditional ideas. But yeah, the other reason why some of the spells, as you said, come out of left field is because I did not want to see the typical fireball, lightning bolt. I just didn't want to continue with the same tropes. Magic is supposed to be an expression. So the idea with this is that there's enough spells in here to give GMs and players alike the ability to come up with their own things. You can take some of these spells and reskin them. You can, take inspiration from them. You can see and get an understanding, of how, what the thought process was. So, you guys can start off with your favorites, and then I'll go and we'll talk about each of those spells a little bit. And, because I kind of like them all, but there's a couple that I like,
I can start off.
Yeah, go ahead.
I already have it kind of displayed on what page it's on anyway. Hell's Paper I really enjoy, because I enjoy characters who try to use things in interesting ways. And should I read what the ability does out loud? Or
yeah, go ahead, read it out loud.
So Hell's Paper, at 1 point, its disenchantment allows for notes to be scribed for specific eyes. If anyone other than the intended person tries to open or read the message, the paper will explode. That explosion will do 6 points of damage to all within immediate range. So again, really nice way for the players to be sneaky or use in other interesting ways, even if maybe they're not trying to send a message, they just want to use it for maybe a mini explosion, like it's designated to someone who'll never read it, let's give it to our enemy or whatever. Either way, I really enjoy the things you could possibly play around with and do with it.
And I can actually speak to that spell for you, Al. That was actually created because of anime and old horror kung fu movies. When you had the sorcerer wizard, he's doing it, and throw the paper. That was where that came from. That
I like it.
let's, you know.
I mean, I always found those to be the best spells, and like those utility multiple application spells, the spells that could be used offensively and defensively. The spells that are not just directly I shoot a fireball at you and hit you. The spells that if you give it to 4 different casters, they're going to utilize it 4 different ways. Those are always my favorite spells as a GM and as a player.
Most definitely.
My personal favorite spell is another spell that is unique and it's funny, but I like the dorsal fin of the trees. It costs 3 points, and this spell causes the target to grow a strange dorsal fin on its head and glider membranes that extend from their wrists to their ankles. This magic will last for 24 hours. While active, the bearer can glide through a forest at 30 miles an hour. This is a unique way of getting some sort of flight. And I view it as not only is it's a cool spell, right, and it has multiple applications, but it can be reflavored for the sea. It can be reflavored for urban cities. It can be reflavored, for planes, no matter what. So it could be you just pick an environment and have the ability to either fly, swim, burrow, whatever what you want to do. But it's a very unique spell, and I can see many people utilizing it in different ways.
That particular spell came about because I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with it, but you're funny that you go to, talk about reflavoring for the cities and stuff. It actually came from a comic book I used to read called Planetary. And there's a character in there named Jack Hawksmoor. And Jack, in a city, was the baddest dude around. He was like connected to any city he was in. And he had all these crazy abilities, like when he was in the city, like his feet would grow suction cups on the bottom so he could run up walls, or he, develop gill-like things to filter so he could, go through the sewers and stuff like this. It was all kinds of stuff like that. And that spell came from that comic book. Just was like, and I just had to think of like, okay, we're talking about D&D, so okay, let's put it in the forest. I was thinking like rangers and stuff like that. So that's what that came from. And for me, one of the spells that I really dug, it's a more combat spell. It's the exploding flail. It says this spell brings about a temporary enchantment on weapons and improvised weapons. When cast, the weapon will have a slight glow. When this weapon is used and hits a target successfully, it flares with light, and ghost-like images of that weapon explode upon impact. The main target takes 4 points of damage. The exploding images will strike all other targets within immediate range, inflicting 2 points of damage. I wanted to come up with something different. The wizard always has his fireball. He gets to attack everybody, in the room. I was like, you know what? Let me get something like that to the fighter or to the cleric, or even to the monk. The monk casts that on his fist. Boom, you see his fist and it flares, but he hits, the other enemies around that guy. I just thought it was cool to give, a fireball to somebody who's not really casting a fireball.
That's actually the first thing I thought of, was someone using their fist, and it made me think of that. If you play Diablo 3, the monk has like an ability where they like pick an area around them and they can like attack every target within it, and you see like ghost-like images of them like teleporting to each target. That's the imagery that came to mind for me, man. It's really cool.
I don't. There's a spell like that in this supplement. I don't remember the exact name, but it's an illusionary spell that creates a image, and if you pass the roll, it actually illusion that actually deals damage.
Oh, you're talking about the illusionary. What is it? Attacking illusion, I think.
Yeah, it's a real cool ability. But then again, I like the diversity in pretty much all the spells that are in here. Like I said, even if you're not running traditional fantasy, you can use these not only as spells but as abilities, because they design like basic Cypher. So you have a general idea how powerful they are, and what the ability cost would be to actually utilize them.
Right. That was kind of the whole point, was that none of this is, locked in stone or anything like that. It's truly designed to be that flexible, be able to be used however you want it. If you wanted to add these as new abilities into your game or whatever, but as spells, they work as well. Because if you really think about it, that's all the abilities, if you, because you can even take the abilities in the CSR and turn those into spell-like abilities with this concept.
And, that's just the beauty of the Cypher System, that you can just easily do things like that. Yeah. And it doesn't cause, any disruptions or, and if anything, if you're converting a spell into an ability, all you got to do is decide what stat you think it goes with, right? It's so easy to do, and that's literally all you have to think about to make it into an ability. It's just so simple.
I mean, not only did you create 60 to 65 new original spells, you also did some enchanter rules, enchanting weapons, a chart for enchanting weapons. You want to touch a little bit on that, and any major changes that you added?
Yeah, well, the enchantment idea was that, if you wanted to play a character who's just an enchanter, that this person in the game can, put temporary enchantments on your weapons or on items. There's XP cost, and then there's, it's broken down in two ways, temporary or permanency. If you're enchanting things to be permanent, then it's going to cost you XP to do that. So it's not going to be something, I don't think, you're going to be trying to do every session. But if you're just, going to give somebody an ability for, an encounter or whatever, there may not be an XP cost. It might just cost you primordial points and, pool points, it just depends. But that's what it is. The whole idea is to give you, again, that whole thing, a blessed spell. You want this guy to be able to fight undead creatures. Well, let me give you an enchantment, to fight undead, or stuff like that.
I definitely really like this concept because it's so I don't, and not to belittle what you've written, it's such an obvious way to deal with enchanting, and I never thought about it. I never had heard anybody talking about it to do it like this, and it's now that you're saying, it's wow, this is, and it makes so much sense. It's so easy to do. It has an excellent cost, and again, I will be stealing this and incorporating it into some of my games.
That's what it is. And the chart that Anthony was making a reference to is what I did. I also created an expanded special role list. Not going to go into it, but I can tell you the special roles start at 15 on the dice. So where before it was only 17, 18, 19, and 20, something special happened. I did an expanded list on that as well, but it's only on enchanted weapons. So that's if you have an artifact, or it doesn't have to be something that's enchanted by the wizard, in your game. But I'm saying if you have a magic item that you carry around, this chart can be applied to that if you want it. And again, these are optional rules. This is optional magical rules to incorporate to your game.
I mean, that's really interesting because I could see the benefits and how it would affect the narrative in campaign games, because now you have plots and storylines where people are going to seek out these weapons if you don't have an enchanter in the group to get those benefits, especially if you have a martial character in a group of mages, he's going to want to have, okay, I might not have the spell slots that these other characters have, but I could have all these enchanted weapons that I just need to roll a 15 or higher, and I'm doing a lot of cool, I'm stacking magical abilities off my weapons, which is really cool.
Yeah, and it's a super cool concept because, again, even if you're not even if your players aren't being magic users or whatever have you, it gives you a way to create really interesting magic items for them to find somewhere, or to seek out, or purchase, or whatever have you, however you want to get them in the game. But now you have basically, and especially if you use the cards to do it, the card Dean mentioned earlier, you can like make up magic items on the fly now. Like, boom, this is magic item that does this. It can create and do this or whatever. Like, well, I don't know what you call that threshold between 15 and whatever, but it can do extra stuff and like that's super cool. I love it.
Well, and that's the other point. You know, when you think about playing fantasy, one of the coolest things in a fantasy game, you know, at least I know from when I started playing, I know Anthony probably feels the same way, but if you're playing that martial character and you get your first +1 magic sword, you know, I mean, you remember back in the day how important it was to get that first magic sword, or the, you know, that magic bow. You know, that's what I wanted to kind of recreate with that.
And again, that's super awesome. And not only that, like, again, you can. I'm just now thinking of ideas on how to use this stuff, like, because it's so cool. You can also have the character seek out like an NPC enchanter who does this to the weapons. Like, there's just so many nice ways to like use this within a story, and it's just chef's kiss on that.
I mean, I guess the ultimate question we're gonna ask is, how does this make the spellcasters in this supplement differ from the ones that, you know, we already currently have in Cypher System? Like, what do you think the biggest difference that you're changing to the spellcaster type as a whole?
Well, it brings to the table that classic flexibility that spellcasters are known for. You know, spellcasters aren't known, you know, they're not known to be the tough guy. They're not known to be the sword wielding guy. You know, they're not the guy to get out in the middle of the combat, but they are the guy that has this tool chest of things that, you know, why everybody fears them. And I think by adding this particular supplement to your game, looking at how it's set up, the fact that you get spell slots, you have a pool to draw from, to do things with, you just added a level of badassery to your players, you know, that, you know, is really cool. And the other thing I want to mention, you know, we didn't mention before, is that spell casting is not restricted to any single type. Every type actually has access to it. There are rules for their access to the magic, you know. So you can make a fighter magic user like you used to back in the day, and you don't have to, you know, you can call it a fighter magic user if you want to, but you don't have to, you know. So
that sounds really interesting, and I could definitely see this replacing a lot of the aspects of the Cypher Core magic user.
Yeah, and then the first thing, you know, you guys know, whenever I play a game that has magic or whatever in it, or rolls or whatever, I mean, usually fantasy games that use magic like this have like those that are like, you know, like rogue, whatever, like you have these classes. And now I say like, whoa, it's super easy to make a paladin in Cypher System now, like, and not only just a paladin, but like you can have a dark knight or like an elemental knight or something like that. Like you can just go so many different ways with having a magic-y melee person, which is something I usually really enjoy in a video game, or, you know, any sort of game that allows you to do it.
You know, the arcane archer is back. You know, the arcane archer is back. The you know, Pathfinder did a character class that I really did, was called the Magus, and it was basically a fighter magic user. They were a fighter who, you know, their sword, their martial aspects was the focus for them to be able to cast magic. It was cool. I could see being able to create those things now, and I'm pretty excited about it. Like I said, 2 months of play testing, everything kind of lined up. It was just a lot of fun. Various things came up. Al, you just gave me another idea. Like I said, I can't wait to, you know, do the pro trigger stuff and start, you know, having people combine stuff, you know. Like I said, and that's what this is all about, is to get our, what you could say, get our juices flowing and make these connections and, you know, make these great games. So, you know, getting Anthony's game.
I always enjoyed the Battle Mage. You know, the Battle Mage has always been one of my favorite characters to play.
Oh, yeah. Well, you could definitely make a Battle Mage with this.
Yeah, you definitely can.
You made it super easy to do that sort of thing.
You made it super easy to create the bard character because with your speaker plus your spell slots plus the speaker abilities, you could definitely have vicious mockery going on. You made it very easy to create the bard character.
Well, that's what I was thinking when I first made this. I'm like, when you look at the bard in D&D, the bard has his spells and stuff, kind of go in between some of his abilities. But the speaker is nothing but a bard. So now you got a spell list that now he can add, that extra little nastiness that a bard could be, do, which I think is pretty cool, So
definitely exciting stuff.
I'm pretty excited about it. I'm pretty happy with this particular product.
I mean, you should be. I think it's a well-designed product. And like I said, I'll probably be streaming my Gods of the Fall one-shot. So I'm definitely going to be using some of this, some of the aspects from this supplement so people could see it in action.
Appreciate it, guys.
I mean, the next question I'm going to ask, which is the question for most of us Cypher heads who don't tend to stick to only one genre, but how could this supplement be used for multi-genres besides fantasy?
Well, think of it this way. Modern fantasy, which is still fantasy, but it's not because it pulls in a whole modern element. It could be used there. You could use this in a superhero game with no problem. These could be abilities that you could add to a particular superhero. The beautiful thing about fantasy per se is that it transcends just about every genre. So with the way this is built, you can just plug it into whatever genre you're dealing with. You can add a fantasy element. You can take these and turn these ideas into cybernetic pieces. These could be, cybernetic pieces that people plug in. These could be these could be new ciphers that you want to throw out in your game if you want to seed your game with something different.
I mean, to me, it screams anime. It screams magical girl. Like when I see this, like I like a lot of the spells made me think of anime. Or video game, like what Al said earlier, has a lot of Diablo, like S-type abilities.
And that was kind of the point. The point was to bring to the table something unique unto itself, but still giving you the same tools. I don't know if we mentioned it, but like with some of the spells, I actually added in reskins into traditional spells. Like I'll just share one of those with you guys real quick so you can kind of see what I'm for example, I have Tiger Run. Okay, you're considered trained in running, sprinting, for the duration of this spell. You can dash up to long range and still attack in the round with no penalty. This spell lasts 3 rounds. Literally, I didn't even have to rewrite anything or do anything crazy. Just change it to haste. Mm-hmm. Now it's a haste spell. Stuff like that. But then others, you might have to do a little bit. Like for example, and I'm gonna shut up because
let me just ask one more question because I notice a lot of the spells have multiple rounds. Do the spells stack?
They can, but you'd have to spend primordial points to do it.
No, so yeah, I can see some really kooky combinations going on. That's gonna be really cool.
Well, see, that's the point. You can do craziness, but it's gonna cost you. And here's another thing that you probably are not used to from other games. You have to replenish your primordial pool with recovery rolls. But the way the rules are set up, you don't get to add to that. You can't do it. You can't recover primordial points with every roll. There's only one time a day. So it still gives that whole thing, well, I'm not back to full power. I'm not back to full strength. That doesn't mean you can't cast spells. Just means you can't use your primal magic on it. You can't manipulate it. You can still cast, but yeah, it's not going to be you know, it's not going to be extra stuff going on. So that's one of those other things, you know, I should put that in there for role playing purposes.
And
Yeah, I think that's really cool.
yeah, and it's awesome. And again, I think we discussed it in the pools video where it introduces that, like, hey, it's just built into Cypher. Like, you just after one rest, you're not gonna be full power all the way. It's like it's a gradual thing. Like you're not gonna blow out all your super magical powerful stuff and then just take like a nap and be fully back to all that magical
Right.
stuff. It's a gradual growth of that, or excuse me, a regain of that. And again, I think that's excellent. And again, Cypher does it really well, and you've captured that really well for the magic use. And again, it just makes sense for, a mage shouldn't be able to just like whip out all the stuff and whoop and then be able to do it again. Like it's a gradual. Yeah. I like it.
I mean, go ahead, D.
No, I was just saying I mean, what I was about to say. What else you got for me?
I guess the last thing we'll ask is, if you had to do one final pitch for our viewers that may be on the fence about purchasing this, like what that we haven't spoken about that you want to talk about, to highlight, highlight the product and hopefully get people excited about it and wanting to purchase it.
Well, I can say it's what you've been asking for. If you look at Gods of the Fall, if you look at God Forsaken, if you look at the rules for Cypher System for magical characters and so on and so forth, if you looked at all of the things that they've already told you, this is that missing puzzle piece. This is that piece, this is that universal piece of the puzzle that plugs in and gives you the whole kit and caboodle. It's like the revelation. It's it's the Philosopher's Stone of Cypher System magic, if you will. And that's what I would tell you. It's the Philosopher's Stone for magic.
I like that.
Yeah. I'm excited to bring it to the table. I think it's a wonderful product. Like I said, the spell list is sick. It's bananas. I kind of want to use all 60 something spells. That'll be like the worst mage ever, but it's really cool. And we're gonna bring this to the table. We're gonna probably do a video with actually utilizing it, so people could see what I'm talking about. But go out and get this. Granted, Dean's my brother, so you could take it with a grain of salt. I love the guy, but I'm not BSing. I really, really enjoy the product.
Look, if it was a crappy product or something, he wouldn't even be talking to you guys on the show about it.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I already mentioned earlier, I haven't read it. Just glancing at the ideas and the few spells I did read while scrolling through the PDF, like I already have plans to use this, and like I'm running a game for some stream buddies of mine. I'm going to use these to make ciphers, like for sure. Like for sure, I'm going to be making ciphers from these.
And one last thing, the art and the layout is gorgeous. Can you tell us who helped you out with this?
Oh, well, the majority of the art comes from the latest Cypher Creator packs that they dropped on us. And Gonza Gaming, of course, did an excellent layout. The guy is awesome, love his work.
By Gonza Gaming, you mean Chris Robert Negline?
Yes, I do. And if you haven't bought his products, this would be perfect to go right along with his Mortal Fantasy product. And just so you know, not only can you buy this product as a standalone, but it is also in the big fantasy bundle that we have on Drive-Thru RPG as well. So that's going to be something too,
And hopefully, me and Dean spoke about yesterday, him helping me out with me releasing my Gods of the Fall one-shot adventure. Children should play with dead things.
Oh yeah.
So hopefully it could be incorporated with this as well.
Oh yeah, we put that fantasy bundle in there, and
if I ever collect my napkins together to actually put it on paper.
I tell you what, Anthony, what we'll do is we'll sit down, we'll work it out, and we'll actually make some bonus spells for that with these same rules.
And, that's actually super exciting because that was a fun game.
So thanks everybody for spending some time, taking a minute to look at this video and
And
talk about it.
I don't know if we mentioned this, but just in case, it could be picked up off the Cypher Creator program on Drive Through RPG, correct?
Yep.
I've already linked it below.
Mm-hmm.
And it will
Awesome.
also be in the description later.
If we have anyone in chat that has any questions about this supplement or any questions in general, feel free to hop in and ask us anything you like. Fantasy, Cypher System, Owl's hair.
Oh boy.
Ready and willing to answer any question.
Oh boy.
It's quiet tonight.
Yeah, I think it's a quiet night. I think we can wrap it up. Yeah, want to give the ending spiel here, Ant?
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Dean, for coming on to the show.
Amazing. We got it. We got it. We booked it. We actually booked Dean. We were able to actually book Dean. Amazing.
Yes, right. We did it. All right. All kidding aside, if you like us and you like what we do, please give us a follow or subscribe on our YouTube channel. Give us a follow here on Twitch. Every little bit helps. You can visit our online merch store, pick up the cool swag that me and Dean have, right? Or visit our Ko-fi site and give us a little donation there. Like we say in all our videos and content will always be free, but every little bit helps. Whatever you can help us with the small things like Zoom costs. And this has been a pretty hectic week, so I hope everyone's healthy, safe, and maintaining in these very troubling times, because I know it can be really difficult. And last but not least, like I always say, we love you guys.
Yeah. And thank you again, guys, so much for coming on. Dean, any last words before I close this out?
Well, I'm just going to echo Anthony. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. That's all important. And we'll see you guys next week. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for stopping by to watch. And yeah, hopefully you'll check out this magic supplement because it does seem top notch. And yeah, from us at the CU, we will see you later.